I recently moved out of my old house, and before I left, I found this letter. It was in my garage, in an empty fish tank I was planning on giving away. I don't know who wrote it, and I don't know what to do. The following is a transcription of the letter. I've decided to write this down, just in case you find it. You might, and you might not. I'm satisfied either way. I really wasn't going to contact you at all. I mean, I certainly didn't plan on it. But of course, I also didn't plan on you leaving. So now that I know we don't have much time left together, I thought this might be an appropriate goodbye. I've taken good care of you. I try to stay humble, but I don't think I'm overstating when I say I've taken excellent care of you. I was there for you every step of the way. When you were sick, when you were down, and of course, all the normal days. Those were the ones when you needed me the most, I think. I didn't even hold it against you when you almost found me and called the police. I was hurt, of course, but I tried to let bygones be bygones. And I suppose that was partially my fault anyway. I tried to remember to close the window every time I went in or out of the house. But I'll admit I got sloppy from time to time. I only left it open to let in some fresh air, but I forgot to close it before you got home. It was a careless mistake, and you'll note that I never repeated it. But calling the police over was a bit excessive, don't you think? No harm was done, of course. You never found me. But I still feel it was a breach of trust. Some good did come of it, though. I decided to avoid leaving the house as much from then on, which gave me more time with you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk about it so much. Like I said, I try to forgive and forget. So I'll just say I'm sorry I scared you and leave it at that. Did you know you had mice in your house? I doubt you did. I know how much you hate rodents, and you would have done something had you known they were there. But I got rid of them for you. You never even knew. That's the best part. I love it when I can keep the environment controlled and really see what you're like when you're alone. Did you know you left the stove on 3 separate times when you left the house? I had to turn it off for you. That's how good of a caretaker I am. And then there's the way you never thought to clean the lint trap in your dryer. I had to do that too. I swear, it's like you were trying to burn your house down. But, even more than that, I enjoyed the normal day-to-day tasks. I gave you food. When something in your fridge expired, I replaced it. It's funny, the first time I did this, I thought for sure you'd notice. But you didn't. I started slow, only replacing 1 or 2 things that you weren't likely to check, and then subconsciously you began to take it for granted that your food was always good. It was a gradual process, but frankly I was surprised at how quickly you adapted. That was one of my favorite parts, watching you grow dependent on my care without ever knowing it. It was things like that that brought me the most joy. I cleaned your floors, I watered your plants. Once I even washed your dishes. You always did that in the evening, but one night you forgot, so I did it for you. You didn't notice that either. I took very good care of you. So why didn't I show myself? Why didn't I take credit for my benevolence? Well, it wasn't because I thought you would be upset that I was living in your house, though that did cross my mind when you called the police on me for leaving the window open. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but that was really uncalled for. No, I didn't show myself because I wanted to observe you. I wanted to watch you in a completely detached setting. If you had known I was there, it wouldn't be the same. You and I have a very close relationship. And I didn't want to ruin it by introducing all the messiness of interaction. You have an aquarium in your living room. You take care of the fish. Well, actually, I take care of the fish. You keep forgetting to feed them. But, for now, let's just pretend you take care of the fish. And what do the fish do in return? They live. Sure, they live very different lives than they would in the wild, but they don't know that. That's what it's like for me and you. I take care of you, and I ask nothing in return. I just watch. I've learned so much about you in the time I've been caring for you. I know your most obvious traits, all the way down to the smallest details. I know how you act, how you move, how you think. I know where you would look for me in your house, and where you wouldn't. It's this understanding that made me even better at taking care of you. I learned how to suggest things to you, to plant ideas in your mind with perfect subtlety. I noticed when you were lonely, and decided you needed a dog. I knew you had owned a dog previously, and I knew that every year you got that plastic Christmas tree from the closet you barely opened. So I put your old dog leash where you would see it in the closet, just to help you remember. Of course, that wasn't enough to make you get a dog, but it was an accumulation of things like that. I won't bore you with the details, but it worked, didn't it? I take care of your dog, too. I was always there to steer you in the right direction, and make you do what's best for you. I helped you decide what to wear, where to go, who your friends were, and all kinds of things. I took good care of you. But all good things must come to an end. I know you're going to be moving out soon. It's a bittersweet end to a beautiful relationship, but I know our time is up. I considered moving out with you, but to be honest, I think I've learned everything I need to about you. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I've almost become bored of you. It's all right. There are only so many things you can know about a person. So as a goodbye, I'm going to hide this note somewhere. I know most of the places you would or wouldn't find it, but I'm going to try my hardest to find somewhere that I don't know if you'll look. Like I said, I know you. So, seeing whether you find this note, and seeing how you react if you do, will be one last surprise. I hope you can learn how to take care of yourself without me, and thank you for all the good times we've had. With love, your caretaker.
I have a story to tell you, but I beg you not to read it. Please, don't. I know it sounds stupid, but by the time you understand why, it will be too late. I know this will not deter many of you, but without this simple warning to ease my conscience, I may not be able to go through with this. And I desperately need to go through with this. Let me start at the beginning. I have an old friend, Joe, who I've known since grade school. I'm in my late 20s, so is he, and he's been my friend for at least half of that time. I'd say that we knew each other pretty well, after all of that time. This may seem irrelevant and uninteresting, but I have to stress this. I know him, and I know him well. What he did was... It was nothing he ever could have done without some outside influence. On the night of Friday, January 23rd, I was driving to his apartment to pick him and his roommate up. We made plans to go out, hit a couple of bars, and generally have a good start to the weekend. When I arrived, there were a number of police cars and ambulances outside the complex. I was, of course, curious, as I, like many people, rarely see such sights. As I got closer, I noticed a body covered in a bag in the street, surrounded by glass, and no more than a few feet from a badly dented car. I'm rather horrified, coming to the conclusion that someone was hit by a car and killed right outside the complex. As I finished gawking, I made my way inside and up the stairs to the 3rd floor. That's where my friend's apartment is, and that's where I found it wasn't a simple accident. The police were upstairs as well, talking to residents and taping off one of the apartments. My friend's apartment. Panicked, I asked one of the officers what happened, why my friend's apartment was taped off. I told him I was supposed to be meeting them for drinks, and asked if they were okay. The officer told me that it had appeared that Joe had butchered his roommate with a kitchen knife and thrown himself through the plate glass sliding door into the street below. I was a ghost, shaken so badly I could barely answer the simple questions the officer asked me upon finding that I knew the victims. My mind couldn't process it. I knew him. He'd never do such an atrocity. It didn't make sense. I made my way back to my car in silence and drove home as though on autopilot. I couldn't get the shock of it all out of my head. My wife asked me what happened, and I explained it to her. She was shocked as well, but she didn't know him like I did. I told her I needed a bit of time and went to my room. She let me be. Lost, I found myself at my computer. I'm not really sure why I did it, but I found myself checking his email. I knew the passwords he commonly used, so it was hardly an issue to find the right one. I thought perhaps he had friends online who I needed to tell, or maybe I thought I'd find a window into what caused this. I really don't know. If I knew then what I know now, I would have never done what I did. I scrolled through his inbox, looking for familiar names. Joe, I, and several friends kept in touch online, and I instantly recognised several of those names in the last few days. The most recently opened email was what looked like a spam email with an attachment and no other information. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. The file itself was a picture, named nothing but a seemingly random string of numbers. It was simply a man, seemingly normal at a glance, but the longer I stared at it, the more disturbed I became. He stood, staring, with a grin, sinister and unsettling, with eyes that were both vacant and focused at the same time. That terrible grin seemed to widen the longer I stared, and for minutes I was fixated at that horrible face, eyes burning as they stared back at me with equal intensity. Finally, I tore my gaze away to find the only other thing in the email, a single word. A word I can't repeat. Not yet. I need to tell my story. I couldn't take the sight of it anymore. I had to close it. The face was still looking at me. I swear I could still feel his grinning stare. As I went to log out of his email and put that horrid thing out of my mind, I noticed the time it arrived. January 23rd, 5:35 p.m. We were supposed to meet at 6. He likely saw this less than half an hour before he died. For the next several days, I tried to get it out of my mind. I attended my friend's funeral. I tried to go on with my life, but I kept feeling uneasy. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like someone was watching me. At night, I started to have unsettling nightmares. I couldn't remember much of them when I awoke, but they all had the same elements. That horrible grinning man, blood, violence, and death. I couldn't get a good night's sleep. I was struggling at work. I kept feeling tense and on edge. I needed to know what was going on. It was hard to really know what to look for at first. All I had to go on was that image and the single word that accompanied it. Grinning Man is hardly a descriptive search, and Haunted Grinning Man or Cursed Grinning Man wasn't really any better. Still, I did what I could with my limited resources. I actually found a reference to it, or what I thought was it, on a website dedicated to conspiracies and paranormal things, and other things that I'd normally dismiss as utter bullshit. Still, this wasn't natural, and I was willing to try to open my mind to any explanation, since this seemed to defy anything conventional. What I uncovered about this grinning man was that it was an image that seemed to circulate among image boards and forums a few years back. The article said the picture was harmless, if not a bit creepy, though I strongly disagree on the term "a bit." But it seemed that something about it, when coupled with a key word that was unknown, could trigger extreme psychotic bouts, irritability, nightmares, and hallucinations. It seemed so utterly stupid, simple text and pixels causing such harm, and yet I was sitting there, realising that I was experiencing those same nightmares, irritability, and hallucinations. Joe obviously experienced the psychosis, evidenced by his sudden murder-suicide. I was stunned. I thought it had to be a joke, some kind of bizarre hoax, but I knew there was more to it than that. I knew what I was feeling, and I knew my friend. That picture, and that word. It had to be the key word. What triggers everything? Oh God, was this going to happen to me too? Was I going to kill my wife, and then myself? I started to panic, but my rational mind won over. If it was just paranoia and hallucinations, those couldn't hurt me, right? They only had power if I gave them power. I decided that I would end this, put it out of my mind, rationalise it away each time I felt it. That would be the end of it all. As much as my rational brain helped me through the day, it couldn't protect me at night. My dreams continued to degrade, ending in me waking in the middle of the night, cold sweats and heart pounding. I started taking sleeping pills, though I refused to tell my wife. I didn't want her to worry, though I knew she could tell something was wrong with me. The pills did nothing, though. In fact, they seemed to make my dreams more vivid. I could remember everything when I awoke. Every horrible, bloody detail. That grinning, inhuman face. I found I started sleepwalking. The first night I woke curled in the bathtub, then in the kitchen. 3 days later, with a knife in my hand and the bloodied remains of our black lab at my feet. I can't even remember the next things that happened after that. I know I cleaned up our dog, hid him in a trash bag, and said he ran off in the night and got lost. I was terrified. I had no idea what to do. I tried to medicate myself heavily. I locked up all the knives in the house. My wife knew there was something terribly wrong, but I refused to say anything. I don't even know if I could at the time. The only thing I can still remember clearly was the dreams. I was irate and easily spooked at the littlest of things. I thought it had to just be my nerves from all of this and lack of sleep, but I remembered my friend, the website. I knew I was getting worse. The thing I remember most about the dreams, aside from that horrible grinning man, is the emotions. I felt each death that was inflicted in the dream like it was real. Like it was my own hand disemboweling my friends, my families, and random strangers against my own will. Like each death, each vision of terror he showed me was not just a vision, but my own work. Each horrible death in the dream made him grin a little wider. He wanted me to snap. He wanted me to become exactly what he was showing me. He wanted me to become him. So I come here to tell you this because I'm desperate. I need help. You see, I can't bear the thought of harming my wife, the woman I love most in this world. Yet I know it's inevitable. He's always there, watching and grinning, knowing I'm close to breaking and nudging me ever closer to the edge. I know what he wants. I can't let him have that. I don't know any other way out. I'm reaching out to you in hopes that he'll leave me alone. Maybe if you, the careless reader who I warned away, will give him what he wants, he'll let me be. I have to try. I don't know what else to do. I'm so sorry. I hope you can forgive a man for acting in desperation.
It's the moment of the day you've been waiting for. You strip down, out of your restraining clothes, and step into the cold, pale chamber. You turn the knob and feel the water splash against your body, adjusting the temperature to the most optimal setting. A shiver runs down your spine as you feel the worries of your mind melt away, as does the dirt of the daily routine. You take a moment to revel in the warm splashing of the water jets against your back and chest. Soon after, you apply the products: shampoo, conditioner and body wash, all at your own leisure. You try not to think of all the stressful woes of the time beforehand, nor of all the tasks that still need to be done after. Right now, this time is just for you. It's the most relaxing time of the day. Or it would be, if not for having to wash your face. Such a simple, insignificant task, you think. But when you begin lathering the soap in your hands to apply it to your face, you begin to think of the time it will take you to rinse it off. 3 seconds? 5 seconds? Maybe even 9 whole seconds. It's the time in which you become fully aware of your unremarkable vulnerability. You're surrounded by walls on all 3 sides. You cannot see beyond the shower curtain on your only side to freedom. You have no means of defense or anywhere to hide. When you begin rinsing off the soap from your face, you cannot see anything at all. You think about possibly keeping your eyes open during this part, so as to not hinder yourself from any possible danger further. But you know that the soap would only trickle down into them, causing you to clamp your eyes shut anyway. For that brief window of time, your mind conjures horrific images of what could possibly be lurking around you, waiting to take advantage of you in your most vulnerable moments. You know there's nothing out there. You were just looking around and there was nothing. It would be silly to think otherwise, right? If that's what you'd like to believe, then sure. However, one of these days you're going to wipe your eyes clear of soap and water, or reach out from behind the curtain to grab your towel to find something that you know was not there before. My shrunken, smiling face staring back at you in the bleached box. My shriveled hand waiting patiently for yours atop your towel. I have numerous ways to instill terror and pain from when you are most vulnerable. But trust me, you have nothing to fear. You just keep doing what you're doing, relaxed and sedated. There's nothing on the other side of the curtain.
In any city, in any country, go to any mental institution or halfway house you can get yourself to. When you reach the front desk, ask to view something known as the holder of the voice. The worker may try to hide a brief look of panic, but will eventually compose himself. He will throw you a small, black, unmarked plastic bag and walk away irrationally. You do not have to follow him, but something will bid you to trace his footsteps. You will pass through a dimly lit hallway with panoramic windows for walls. Regardless of the time of day, the outdoors will appear to be dark. Should you look out the windows, you will see only an endless stretch of woods. If you think you see motion in the woods, do not turn. Keep walking up towards the end of the hall. There will be no door, only a blank wall with peeling wallpaper. The worker will tear the wallpaper off just a bit, then flee into the shadows. When you inevitably finish tearing the wallpaper, a small, dusty attic room will be revealed. In the centre sit two objects, a small doll and a tape recorder. Both are ancient and coated in dust. If you examine the doll, you will see a small metal crank on it. Wind the crank and the doll will emit a sound somewhat akin to fingernails scratching against wood. Press play on the tape recorder. It will play even if there are no batteries. There will be the muffled sound of a female voice in distress. You will not be able to make out the words. It will go on and on until you press stop. The final decision facing you will be whether or not you should play the two sounds together. The bag given to you will contain two rusted railroad spikes. You know what you will do. The moment you attempt to start both sounds at the same time, the ground will begin to shake and the room around you will begin to crackle and start coming apart. If you were to survive the collapse of the building, you will be haunted by a sound so shrill and grating that should you remain listening to it for even a small amount of time, you shall bleed from the ears until death. Even before that, you feel strongly compelled to impale both of your eardrums with the railroad spikes. Your only hope is to, through the evil sounds piercing the air, nail the doll and tape recorder to the floor where you stand. Should you succeed, within the broken tape recorder, you will find a tape. It is unplayable and emanates a buzzing hum if you listen closely. That object is 105 of 538. When the time comes, all held within shall be revealed.